Okay, guys, well, we are back, and I have upgraded my technology a little bit. I got a selfie stick, which means I can do all kinds of fancy shit. We can do like a 360-degree rotation, which is fun. I can do low angle stuff, so I look like I'm, up here pontificating. I can do high angle stuff, which is very exciting, although I probably shouldn't drop my phone on the ground, but it's still exciting. I can do Dutch angles if you know your film shit. We can do the whole class like this, and it's like very, something weird's going on. Anyway, it's fun. So I'm trying to make this a little more enjoyable for everybody. So I'm certainly having more fun. And also, I'm sure you guys may have heard about this, the CUNY recalibration for educational equity. There's a confusing email involving them trying to destroy spring break, and it's complicated and it's confusing, basically. But there's a whole separate video you can watch about that. That's the one down below with me and Maureen and Bernard. It's not a big deal. It has no effect on our class. There's the things for this class. I need you to do these things by the end of the semester if you want to get credit by the end of the semester. So if you'll there's the so take if you need if you need to stay away from this website for a week, go for it. I would just recommend that when you return, you read the blogs and you make some comments at the bottom. But there's no due dates in the comments. There's no due dates in the papers either. Try to get the papers by the end of the semester. That would be great. So. Anyway, with that, we'll return. I'm going to return to Coriolanus, and I'm going to try to keep other videos on other topics and other areas. So, but as always, guys, you can email me, ask me questions, and I will do what I can to get back to you pretty quickly. Anyway, let's go back to Coriolanus. So the last time I saw you guys, we were talking about sort of the homoerotic in Coriolanus, which is this idea that Coriolanus, there's a way of looking at Coriolanus and Aufidius. Their most intense relationship is with each other, and even though they're enemies, sometimes being the worst enemies can look an awful lot like being deeply in love with one another. And that Coriolanus is quite a bit of an outsider in his own culture. He doesn't really seem to have a very warm relationship with his wife, who he calls My Gracious Silence, which is really not a great nickname. Shakespeare, by the way, a lot of Shakespeare's women are great talkers. In Much Ado About Nothing, which is one of Shakespeare's best plays, a character, Don Pedro, says to Beatrice, who's one of Shakespeare's great talkers, he says, I love to hear you speak, and I'm always happy to hear you talking and talking. And Coriolanus doesn't have that kind of relationship. He does not enjoy hearing his wife talk. His nickname for her is Silence. Probably because if you want to go psychoanalytic shit, his mother seems to have done a lot of the talking in his childhood. So I just want to look at another big scene today, just to kind of continue to build on the thing I did last time about the sort of homoerotic relationship between Coriolanus and Aufidius. Again, the reason I'm teaching this to you is because I think it mirrors a lot of the relationships in contemporary action movies. I think that Magneto and Professor Xavier seem to be profoundly in love with each other in the X-Men movies, and I think that Vin Diesel and The Rock sometimes appear to be in love with each other in Fast and the Furious, and it's an aspect of male relationships that is often ignored or glossed over, but it's there. And one of the things that Shakespeare does studying, this is a bigger issue about Shakespeare. One of the things that this is so nice being able to walk around. One of the things that Shakespeare does, I don't know how to put this. He makes it easier for you to see. Oh boy. That sounded stupid when I said it out loud. What Shakespeare does is Shakespeare will do something, and you'll see it in Shakespeare, and you'll think, that's odd. And then when you look up from Shakespeare and go about your daily life, you see it everywhere. Because Shakespeare is very good at pointing things out. Shakespeare is very good at lighting things up. What Shakespeare does is his books provide whatever you bring to Shakespeare, Shakespeare lights it up. You want to understand modern movies better, bring them to Shakespeare. He'll help you understand it. You want to understand psychoanalysis better, Shakespeare will help you. You want to understand, whatever your history, Shakespeare can help you with that. And this is a kind of goofy thing to say, and it's not quite serious college professor business. It's just me being a Shakespeare nerd, but that's what I think. And I got that from Harold Bloom. Who was a scholar that I admired for my whole life, and he died just a couple months ago. So let's take a look at Coriolanus's homoerotic relationship with Aufidius. Okay, so I'm on page 26. This is pretty much just where we left off last time. And Coriolanus, this thing about the serving men that he's talking to, this is really just on his way into Aufidius's headquarters. Coriolanus sort of starts fighting with the servants, because of course he does, because he fights with everybody, because that's his thing. So let's turn to, and so one of the first questions is Coriolanus says, "Do you meddle with my master?" And he says, "Aye, 'tis an honor stir service, and to meddle with thy mistress." Right there, you immediately they're like, um, are you messing with my master? Like, are you messing with Aufidius? Are you here to cause trouble with Aufidius? And he says, well, it's better than that than to cause trouble with your wife. And it's an insult, right? It's like it's like if somebody was like, are you fucking with the guy that I work for? He says, better than fucking your wife. But notice immediately what he's done is he's saying, right, it's better to mess with this the male guy that I'm completely obsessed with rather than your female wife. The terms get used and swatched and swapped. These are not words, Jeff. And then Aufidius wants to know what's going on, and they talk about how he's disturbing everybody, and who are you? What's thy name, he says. And this is going to become an important bit because he's going to have to ask his name several times because Coriolanus does not want to immediately identify himself. Coriolanus really builds this moment up because I think the idea is if he bursts in the room and says, I am Coriolanus, then they're going to be like, he's here to kill us, let's kill him. And so he waits a long time before his name, but it becomes a kind of joke where Aufidius asks over and over again, what is your name? What is your name? And Coriolanus really avoids answering. It's an interesting point, too, because in Coriolanus, names are very important. Remember that Coriolanus is, of course, not the name that he was born with. He was born Caius Marcius, and he got the name Coriolanus from beating the shit out of Aufidius's guys, is how he got that name. So it's interesting, too, that he doesn't want to reveal that name so quickly because, of course, his name literally is a time he beat the crap out of Aufidius. But Aufidius wants to know, what's thy name? Coriolanus says, if Tullus, not yet thou knowest me, seeing me, thou dost not think me for the man I am, necessity commands me name myself. You're basically like, you can't recognize me? I guess I better tell you who I am. What's thy name? He says again. And Coriolanus says, a name unmusical to the Volscians' ears and harsh in sound to thine. Say again, what's thy name? He won't tell him. And of course, in the movie, you'll remember he has a beard and he's changed quite a bit. His appearance has changed a lot, but he could be in a hood or something. There's different ways to do it. Say again, what's thy name? Thou hast a grim appearance, meaning like a serious, deadly appearance. And thy face bears command in it, right? You seem like a guy worth listening to. And though thy tackle's torn, thou showest a noble vessel. What's thy name? This is like, even though you're sort of raggedy looking from living on the streets, you do seem like a noble person, a noble vessel, which again sounds like a vessel for nobility, I guess. But you can tell he's an upper-class person who's kind of fallen on his luck. Prepare thy brows to frown. Knowest me yet? I know thee not. Thy name? That's like the 5th time Aufidius has demanded his name. And now Coriolanus tells him, my name is Caius Marcius, who hath done to thee particularly, and to all the Volsces, great hurt and mischief. Thereto witness may my surname, Coriolanus. And Coriolanus gives a massive speech here that we're going to look at next, and then Aufidius answers with an even bigger speech. And this is really the crux of thinking about these two men and their relationship to each other. So he says, the painful service, the extreme dangers, and the drops of blood shed from my thankless country are requited but with that surname, a good memory and witness of the malice and displeasure which thou shouldst bear me, right? The only thing, I fought and bled for these people, and the only thing I have left to show for it is I still have this name the Romans gave me. They called me Coriolanus. That's all he's like, that's all I got. They didn't take care of me. They didn't treat me well. But the way, one thing that Coriolanus is about how countries don't treat their soldiers well. I have a lot of students who are soldiers, and a lot of them really enjoy Coriolanus for this reason, because it speaks to a lot of our men and women who are have been in the military and have served in the military and have this sense of going out in the middle of nowhere to fight battles for America and then coming home and they don't have the support that they expect. And one thing that Coriolanus is about is not the country doesn't really take very good care of its soldiers. In fact, it treats its soldiers like crap. Well, it treats Coriolanus like crap anyway. Now, some of you are thinking, well, Coriolanus deserves to be treated like crap, but if you know that his soldiers are all cowards out there, there's a reason why Coriolanus is the way he is. I feel kind of bad for the guy. I mean, if that was my mother, what would I be like? And so then there's a paper topic in there, by the way. If you want to talk about movies in which soldiers are treated bad when they come home, Born on the 4th of July is a very famous old Tom Cruise movie. That's a pretty good thing if you want to check that out. There's a paper in there. This class does, both Coriolanus and Macbeth are very much about soldiers who are not so good off the battlefield. And they have some trouble with civilian life. They're excellent soldiers. Everybody loves them on the battlefield. You get them off the battlefield, it doesn't really go so well. Also, Macbeth and Coriolanus, in my opinion, are both very much about problems of sort of sexuality. But we'll return to that in the next video.